And please welcome our host, Christopher Rausch. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the Kick-Ass Nation? It is I, Christopher Rausch, Christopher Blake Rausch. Some of you guys every once in a while ask me what my middle name is. It is Blake. So Christopher Blake Rausch here, your host of the Raw Unscripted show. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to have you guys here, whether you're live on the video cast, which we do every single Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that's California, or 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is New York. We are in over 100 plus countries. So I just want to personally thank each and every one of you. If you're watching on the video cast, you're watching the replay of the video cast, which I know a lot of people do on the East Coast because it's their bedtime right now, or you're obviously listening on the audio podcast. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If you're watching on the video cast, I highly encourage you to go download the audio podcast and take us with you on your drives, take us with you to the gym, take us with you on your walks. We have been doing this show now for 7.5 years. We have 380 episodes. It doesn't sound like much for 7.5 years, but we do it every single week. And I highly encourage you to treat this like class, and not like class like high school and having to do homework and all that stuff that you don't want to do, but you have to do. This is kind of stuff that you sit there and say, you know what? I want to improve my life. So I am going to show up the Raw Unscripted show, and I'm going to take three. We're on for about 45 minutes to an hour. I want to take 3 strategies that either the host, me, share with you, or tonight we're excited to have a guest, and I'm going to be introducing her in just a minute, and she's going to blow your socks off. So if you don't have socks on, go put some socks on, because they're going to go push right off. It's going to be a cool trick. So make sure your family watches, and just take what we talk about and apply it to your life, because a lot of people right now are struggling. I talk to people every single day. I've been a coach for over 20 plus years. And if you don't know what a coach is, a life coach, mindset coach, I help you change your perspective about your past, your present, and your future. I help you repurpose some of those traumatic events in your life to see that life has happened for you and not to you. And I know that a lot of you guys have been through some really, really terrible stuff. If you guys know me, or if you're new to the show, I was a homeless 7th grade dropout, lived in the backseat of a station wagon with 18 cats and 4 dogs, with a mother that had 6 verifiable psychiatric disorders. And for 4 years of that part of my journey, I went through a lot of different things. Let's just say were not positive, not pleasant. And I've had a life that has been like all of ours, ups and downs, peaks and valleys, some really cool stuff, some really not so cool stuff. But what I do is I help you realize that when you've grown the most has most likely been when things were challenging. So I want you to think about this. Like, when have I learned and grown the most? Was it when things were easy and cool and comfortable, or when I had to go through some shit? I'm helping quite a few people right now as coaching clients in either my one-on-one coaching or my group coaching. I'm helping them process some of the stuff that they're going through and realizing, like, hey, instead of being anxious about it, instead of having fear about it, instead of trying not to go through it, how about having the perspective of, like, when I go through this, I get to grow through this. And on the other side of the pain and the trauma and the overwhelm and the pressure, which we're going to be talking about tonight, big time, there's peace and there's confidence and there's a knowing. What I want you to do is I want you to get to a spot where, hey, if something comes up in my life, I don't need to react to it. I don't need to sit there and say, why is this happening again? Have the perspective of saying, you know what? I'm fucking unstoppable. I'm a badass. And whatever it is, I'm going to figure it out. And perhaps on the other side of this, I'm going to have some things in my toolbox that are going to allow me to help some other people by maybe leading by example, or maybe getting into the coaching space, maybe getting into the therapy space, whatever it might be for you, and using that pain and helping other people get through that as well. And I've had plenty of people listen to the show and say, Chris, I've learned so much from you, and I've been able to share your episodes, and I've been able to help people go through some of that same trauma or some of those same life experiences as well, and be able to find strength and courage through that. But so oftentimes we want to ignore it. We want to hide from it. We want to go to our short-term gratifications and pretend like it's not happening, whether it's a bad marriage, whether it's a bad job, whether it's your health. We've helped a lot of people transform their health on this show just by realizing, like, hey, why are you self-sabotaging yourself, right? When did it become acceptable to shoot yourself in the foot over and over and over again, living up to the expectations of what other people had for you? So I want you to think about that. If people said you're never going to outmount anything, that you're not smart, or you're not pretty, or you're not whatever it is, insert it into that blank. I want you to realize that you are. I want you to have that faith and that belief in yourself that you are worth whatever it is that you desire in this life. Because so oftentimes you sit there and you put these constraints on yourself and you decide that, no, I can't do that, or because so-and-so said this, or because this happened to me, and that probably happened for me because I'm not smart or intelligent or anything. I want you to realize that you're a very powerful person. And you may not really consider that right now. You might call Chris, you're not talking about me, but I can promise you that no matter what you've been through and what you're going through right now, that you're capable of doing so much more, and you're capable of being able to repurpose a lot of this stuff to find meaning in it, because we're not here to have a good time necessarily. We're here to grow, and we're here to experience things and move on to whatever the next chapter of life, the spiritual existence that we may have. And so I encourage you to have an open mind. Is that cool? Can we have an open mind? We got Robert in the house. What's up, Robert from Canada? Robert Broker. He says, hi, Christopher. I say, hi, Robert. Thank you so much for joining us. Feel free to share this out. Brother, I know you do, and I appreciate you so much. You're always here every single week, so thank you so much for this. Last week, we talked about something very, very powerful, and I'm going to share you. I'm always sharing stuff. As my coach says, open kimono. I've never worn a kimono, but last week we talked about forgiveness. Was people had written into the show and said, you know what, Chris, I'm having a hard time forgiving myself. I'm having a hard time forgiving other people. And I feel like, because I talk about, we carry these bags around, in these bags of rocks. And what would it feel like just to be able to let that bag of rocks go? And so last week, you talked about forgiveness, being able to forgive yourself, especially. That's something that a lot of people seem to have a challenge with. So we talked about forgiveness, and I have to share this with you. A lot of people didn't see it. Some people did see that and message me. I was sick as a dog last week. I actually recorded the episode because I wasn't feeling very good. And I knew that when we would go live, I probably would be feeling worse. But the truth be told, you go back and watch last week's episode. I want not to disgust you, but I was so sick that I had to cut the show early. I went through 10 tips on how to process forgiveness for yourself and for others, that I got off the air and I had to go and throw up. So you might want to go back and watch that and see if you could tell just how many times I have to stop, follow, and sometimes I have to go. So just so you know, for you guys to bring that episode about forgiveness, I sat here and tried my hardest not to throw up. And then I realized, I looked at the clock and I'm like, I want to spend more time on these tips. But we got to about 35 minutes or 40 minutes. And then I was like, all right, thank you very much. Have a great night. We'll see you next week. So there's some insight to that, but I highly recommend to go back and listen to that episode, because people are reaching out to me and saying, Chris, I've never heard somebody talk about forgiveness in such a way. And when you do that, again, like I said before, it's about releasing. It's about releasing the stuff that we carry around like a badge of honor. And some people will talk to me like, oh, Chris, but I've been through this and I've been through this. And I'm like, you act like you're happy about it. Like, what would it be like if you didn't carry that around with yourself anymore? How much different of a person would you be in your career, in your business, in your relationships? Think about that. Think about that. Last thing I want to talk about before I bring on my beautiful guest is, you guys have been asking about it. There it is, my book. It's Just You and Me, Kid. I encourage you to go to itsjustyoundmekid.com. And in case you missed it, I've revised the cover. So there we have it. That's actually the station wagon that I was homeless in. We've got some cool stuff going on. So if you go to itsjustyoundmekid.com, you guys can help me make it a bestseller. You guys can get some backstage access to some of the stories that I had to eliminate from the book. And I'm going to be doing Q&A. I'm going to be offering some free coaching sessions. I want you to help me get this book into so many people's hands that we change the trajectory of mental health and toxic situations in the world, so that we can make this world a little bit better place for our kids and the kids that are coming up after that. So if you can do them that favor, I would appreciate it. I know I keep talking about the book, and I know I keep talking about it coming out, but yes, it is coming out. And I know it's going to be a game changer, and I know it's going to become a movie of the week. Does anybody remember what a movie of the week was? It was like Friday nights, the movie of the week. So anyways, enough about that stuff. Tonight, I am so honored to have my guest. I got the opportunity to meet her very recently, as a matter of fact. And a lot of my guests I tend to know for a little bit of time before they're on the show. But she and I were both nominated for Women of Inspiration Awards. I mean, she's a woman, I'm not. I was nominated for something like supporting women in organizations. I don't know exactly the exact name of it. I apologize, Yvonne and Monica, for that. But I got an opportunity to speak with Shairose and before this particular episode. And I got to tell you, her story is powerful. Her story is powerful. Her testimony is powerful. But more importantly, what tonight we're going to talk about is how to handle pressure. And I know a lot of you guys are dealing with pressure. You're feeling overwhelmed. You're feeling stuck. You're feeling like you don't know what to do. And tonight we're going to be talking about that. And so I encourage you, take notes on your phone, take notes, write it down. And then most of all, once you're all done with that, put some sticky notes for things that you're going to really pay attention to and stick them on your monitor, stick them on your dashboard, stick them on your bathroom mirror, and make it a priority, make it an intention every single day to say, hey, you know what? For the next 7 days, I'm going to practice this. You know what? Actually, for the next 30 days, I'm going to practice this. You know what? I'm going to make it a lifestyle choice so that I can be powerful like those two. So put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. Help me welcome Shairose Gulamani onto the show. Did I do it right?
Almost. Gulamani.
Gulamani. I wasn't reading it. Gulamani. Thank you very much. Welcome to the Raw Unscripted show, my dear. You're looking fabulous tonight. How are you?
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm doing great and very excited to have this conversation with you.
Awesome. I can't remember. Where are you at in the world?
I'm joining you from Seattle, Washington today.
Did I tell you I was up in Seattle recently for the Alaska cruise?
Oh, no. That's awesome.
Remember.
Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I got a chance. We got there a day before the cruise left, and then we got to stay in Seattle a day after the cruise, after we got back, and got to go to downtown Seattle and got to go to the Space Needle, got to do all the touristy stuff. It's a really cool place. Really, really has a lot of character and a lot of charisma. I didn't realize.
It really does. Seattle's beautiful.
How long have you lived there?
28 years, but now I'm going back to Vancouver, British Columbia, so I'm between the two right now.
So you're going to be back there by your 29th birthday?
Thank you.
Yeah. See what I did right there? I'm a little sneaky right there. All right. So my first question for you is always pretty much the same that I ask every guest. And I asked you in the pre-profile for the show. What do you want to get across most to people listening and watching to this tonight? What do you want them to walk away from this conversation knowing, feeling in their heart that they can accomplish, that they can do, that they can realize? What is it that's most passionate on your mind right now?
I think given the topic that we're going to be discussing today, I'd really like people to walk away with that pressure in life is inevitable, right? It's going to be there. It's part of your life's journey. You're going to have those hard moments. You're going to have that stress. But what I want them to realize is that the human capacity to deal with that, we are much stronger than we even realize ourselves. And that we can change how we access the capability to manage pressure by just increasing our awareness, learning strategies to deal with pressure in the moment so that pressure doesn't break us. Pressure builds us. You know, I often say to the leaders that I coach that pressure doesn't break leaders, it reveals their leadership. And I really believe in it. I know through lived experiences that pressure can be very heavy and it can feel like it's going to break you, that this is it, you're done. But it doesn't have to. We can build the resilience through pressure-filled moments, one by one, so that every single time we practice that moment of strength, we're building our resilience so that the next time pressure hits, it's easier and easier. So the goal is really to build that capacity to lead well within pressure.
Yes. And I think about when you were talking about that, I think about, and I don't know this scientifically, but I've heard this somewhere before. How are diamonds made?
Through pressure, intense pressure, in fact, right? And yet they're beautiful and they're strong and they resist all kinds of things, and we can too. So that's a great analogy.
Yeah, I wanted to throw that in there when you're talking about pressure, because you know what? So oftentimes we think pressure is a bad thing, but I love what you said about there, that we have to realize that we have the capacity for so much more. I think I talked about that in kind of the intro. Why is it that we're so hard on ourselves in what we can handle, but we're so positive and supportive with other people?
I think sometimes when we're in a pressureful moment, we don't realize that the pressure isn't just in our mind, that the pressure is happening in our nervous system.
Mm.
And when the brain perceives threat, our body mobilizes, our heart rate increases, stress hormones are released,
Yeah.
and attention becomes more focused. And so, what that causes is it causes us to be more reactive. And sometimes that's good. Like when we're in real threatful situations or in danger, we
Yep.
really do want our body to react quickly and know that we want to get out of it. But when we are dealing with leadership or when high performers are in a business situation, then that type of pressure and how our nervous system reacts isn't always the best thing. Because when that happens, when the when the brain perceives us to be in threat, our nervous system also reacts accordingly and it narrows our thinking. And when we need to make good decisions and when we need to have more perspective or make sound judgment or creativity or just have emotional control, we don't want our brains to not be at its best. We want our best thinking to be online, not our reactive brain to be online. And, some people think, oh, well, really capable leaders, those that are so intelligent, they know exactly how to manage pressure. Well, I'm here to tell you that intelligence doesn't exempt us from that biology of what happens when
Right.
our nervous system gets overwhelmed, right? When our nervous system gets overloaded. Intelligence has nothing to do with it. And that's why I tell the leaders before you solve the problem, stabilize the person. You have to know what state of mind you are making that decision from in order for that decision to be the best one that you want and that you're not going to regret tomorrow.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And dovetailing on what you're talking about, the phrase occurred to me: fight or flight. Right? So many of us have heard fight or flight, fight or flight. I've added one, and I can't take credit for this, but I've added fight, flight, or freeze.
Mhm.
And so oftentimes we freeze in those moments and we freeze in those situations, and we allow the what ifs to populate our brain. And our brain doesn't know the difference between real reality and perceived reality. So the stories that we tell ourselves and the pictures and the videos that we play in our brain become that reality for ourselves. And we become what I have found in overwhelmed in stuff that will never happen. I tell people 98% of your fears will never happen. But yet we go through our life thinking that they've already happened to us because they have been ingrained in our neural pathways. They have been ingrained in our psychological state of how we see ourselves. Because I invite people, I'm like, can you see yourself as a powerful warrior? Not a worrier. Like, see yourself as a powerful warrior. I've had people do the whole Superman thing and like stand there. Like when you're feeling insecure, if you're feeling like an imposter, like get up and change your physical movements and act as if like you were going to be defending your family or you're going to be defending yourself in a situation, and see yourself in that positive way, having that strength and that courage. And so oftentimes we go back to our adolescence. I invite people to go back there and like, where in your childhood did you make the agreement that you weren't a powerful being? And so my question for you is, what are some ways that we can shift that perspective? Because I think in the opening I was talking about the perspective shift about our past, present, and our future. What are some ways that we can shift that perspective, going from, oh, I can't, or I never did, or I failed a few times, to start to have that empowerment for ourselves? Is it changing the way we talk to ourselves? Is it negative self-talk? What are some ways that we can kind of shift that psychological process to not be in that victim state anymore?
Yeah, that's a great question because this is where you learn the power that pressure does not have to, r define you. It can
Right.
actually refine you if you have the right strategies in place, right? You can deal with the pressure once you realize what's happening to your nervous system. Once you know that, pressure has hijacked your best thinking, for example, you need to pause, right? You need to interrupt, pardon me, that cycle that pressure is taking over in your
Mm.
mind. You need to interrupt it and just take a deep breath, pause, ground yourself, feel your feet, on the floor, whatever it takes for you to really be mindful of that moment. And when you do that, the next thing you want to do is name. Name what is happening. What am I feeling? What is
Hmm.
going on? What is it that I need to do? Get your best thinking brain back online. I always tell leaders, when you're in a pressureful moment, the objective is not to make the decision faster.
Hmm.
The objective is to take your time to make the decision better. And in order to do that, you have to pause. You have to regulate yourself. You have to take that moment to recalibrate so that your decisions are not going to be ones that are made in a reactive way that you're going to live to regret. And so I think a lot of people measure resilience by how much they can endure. And I propose a different question. How effectively can you recover, recalibrate, and return to your best thinking? Because that's real resilience. It's how effectively you can come back to that, not how
Yeah,
much you can endure. Because resilience is not enduring pressure endlessly. That's not going to serve you.
not
You know, there,
psychosis.
yeah, there's a difference between high performance and sustainable high performance.
Right.
And endless endurance may get you the high performance, but it isn't going to be sustainable. And at some point, that pressure is bound to leak into your health, your relationships, and your performance. And when that happens, there are going to be some costs to pressure that you're going to have to pay.
Hmm.
And you'll realize at that time, this wasn't worth it. And so I want you to think about when you are in pressure, what is it costing you? And
Hmm.
what can you do to turn things around so that pressure works for you, not against you?
Yes, yes. And I was thinking about how you're talking about that. And the phrase in my brain that I talk to people about is when it becomes acceptable, it becomes inevitable. And so
Mhm.
when you become acceptable that you're weak, when you become acceptable, I just can't handle this, Chris. I'm like, tell me about a time in your life, like not this is the question for you, but I asked them, tell me about a time in your life where you didn't think you could handle it and you did. And then invariably they start telling me about 5 or 6 things. They just start rambling. People love to talk about themselves. I'm like, did you listen to what you just said? Like you handled this, you handled the death of your mother, you handled this, you had the loss of the house, the car breakdown. You've handled everything in your life. So why wouldn't you be able to handle anything that's in your life right now or anything that's going to happen in your life? And I want to share with people, I was reminiscing about our initial conversation. You have been through some shit in your life,
Mhm.
like seriously. So if you would mind, maybe share a little bit about that with people because I mean you're very educated and you're smart and you're talented and you're saying a lot of the right things. You're saying all the right things, but I know that comes from a place of experience. So if you would be so kind as to share some of those experiences with us and kind of give people an inside look into how you develop some of this resiliency in your life.
Yeah, thanks. Happy to share. I'll start off with a professional example and then I'll go to a personal one. Um, as my husband and I were building our cafes, they were called Bovito Cafe and Gelato. Um, it was a very exciting chapter in my life, to start a new business, to have this dream, to work really hard, to put your soul into it, really.
Mhm.
It became like my 3rd child, because you also have to name it. And,
Mhm.
it was beautiful, and until it wasn't at some point. It was just really hard. It takes a lot of pressure to be a small business owner, too, and we expanded really fast, which was both good and hard. And, there was a time I remember when we had to make a really tough decision after having Vivito for 13 plus years. And once COVID was over, the economic landscape had changed significantly, and really business was challenging in the downtown core of Seattle. It had totally changed what it looked like, who was there, how business was done. And we had to make a really difficult decision about continuing Vivito. And we were at the brink of deciding whether to renew the lease or not. And, because this decision wasn't just economic, it was also very emotional because
Mm,
it had been so part of my identity. It was really hard to let something like that go. And so I think that was probably one of the hardest things that I had to make a decision for. And the way that it came about is I realized after I sat with it for a week or so that what I was about to do and the decision we had made to not continue wasn't a failure. Although it took me many months, Chris, before I could talk about it because I felt like I had failed somehow. But it wasn't a failure. It was it was actually knowing with definitive certainty that it was time to let go. Sometimes pressure is not just about holding on, it's also realizing and having the wisdom to know when to let go, when it no longer serves you. And that's hard. I know it's hard. I've lived it, and I see businesswomen and businessmen living this decision all the time, where they feel like they have to hold on a little bit longer. They have to try a little bit harder. They have to work a little bit, more. It's not just that. Sometimes it just doesn't serve you. And so when that happened, and I came to grips with that, I realized it was probably the hardest decision and the probably the biggest decision that allowed me growth because
yeah.
it allowed me to see what I had accomplished to that point and was excited for what was on the other side.
Perspective.
Yeah.
Perspective. And you said something before you go on to the personal thing. I want to touch on something that's very important. You mentioned identity. I did a 3-part series here on the show earlier this year about identity, how we formulate who we are, or how we formulate how we our initial identity, and then how we shift our identity in your situation where we have to let something go, and realizing that it's a reason, a season, or a lifetime, and being able to have that ability to surrender. And so oftentimes we think of surrender as being weak. When we're kids, we get filled with all these beliefs. Oh, if you give up, if you surrender, you're weak, you're a loser, you're a failure. But I love the fact that you sat there and you decided, like, okay, much like I said in the beginning, like, okay, how is this going to help me become a stronger version of myself on the other side? And how am I going to be able to carry these lessons moving forward? And previously you said something beautiful that I love to enforce to people, is that it's not about perfection. It's not about, oh, I'm going to be able to handle every pressure situation. It's about that recovery. It's about that ability to say, okay, normally I would sit in this space for 6 months and I would beat myself up, and oh, you should have done this and you should have done this. And now I feel embarrassed because I have to go tell all my friends that, this didn't work out, or that didn't work out. My marriage failed, or my business failed, whatever it might be. Talk to us a little bit more, go a little bit deeper into identity, because I know you work with CEOs and I know you work with powerful people. What are some ways that we can find that space for surrender without feeling guilty or feeling ashamed?
Well, quite often we sadly equate our achievements to our self-worth.
Yeah.
So when something doesn't work out, we take it personally. We make it about ourselves, that we're no longer worth it, that we're not what, the we're not as strong as we should be, or we are not as worthwhile as we can be. And that's just not true.
Mhm.
This has nothing to do with personal failure. It has to do with something that you tried, you worked hard, you succeeded, you had a hard time, and you knew when it was time to say goodbye. That strength right there, to know the difference, to know when there's time to just let it go, to release it, and know that there's something else waiting for you. And what I'd like to tell leaders to realize that when things don't work out, or when you feel that pressure really heavy, that you feel like I'm just going to crumble and collapse underneath the weight of it, that it's not your fault, that this is not something you did,
Yeah.
right? This is a very much part of our life and our body and our nervous system. And it's time to tell you that there's something you have to do now. You have to release it. You have to pay attention to what's happening to you. We have what's called the allostatic load, which is the load that helps us deal with stress. And it allows us to carry a lot of weight, right? And really capable people can go a long time adding and doing more and staying longer and working harder and holding all that responsibility and having everyone depend on them. They can go a whole long time in doing that. But at some point, they're going to have to put that weight down. We are not
Release the
meant
bag.
to carry that load indefinitely. We have to know and be really well aware of when we need to rest and recover and recalibrate. And, I'll use an analogy of a car. When we have a car, do we never go to the gas station and put in fuel? Do we
Mhm.
not take it for service? Do we not change the oil? Do we not do what's needed to maintain that car so that it can go the extra mile, so that it can give us that sustainable power that it has when we take care of it? How's our body any different? We have to realize that we owe this to ourselves. This self care, this
Mhm.
self compassion, we need it. We have to give it to ourselves if we truly want a life that is filled with joy as well as success. Because just doing and giving and giving and giving, it's not going to serve us. It's going to come crumbling down, and it's not going to be the life that we actually dreamt of. You know, we all go into business thinking this beautiful dream. And yes, we can achieve it. And many do. But we forget along the way of all of those obstacles that we encounter and how much capability we truly have. You said this at the opening of the podcast, that we are so much more than we give ourselves credit for. We are
Huge.
so capable, and we just sometimes forget that, and we don't give ourselves grace to say we did good. We
Mm.
managed. We survived. We did it, and that moment of acknowledging that and taking that pause and allowing ourselves the rest that we deserve is so important in both life and in leadership.
So true. I love what you talked about there. You made me take down a couple of notes, and you had talked about like letting it go. And I can hear people listening to this going, well, she makes it sound so easy. Oh, yeah, just let it go. Do you realize what I've been through? And people, of course, are wearing the badge of honor of all the different things they've been through. What are some practical ways or some strategies that people can repurpose that pain into meaning and understanding, and how we can realize that it's not being selfish when we take care of ourselves? Because I find so many people, well, I feel guilty. And I ask people all the time, like, okay, who's somebody in your life that you love the most? And they'll tell me, oh, my son, my husband, my mom, whatever it is. I'm like, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, you can't pick 7, because people often pick 7 to try to be safe. You can't pick 7. How much do you love that person? And invariably people will tell me 10. I'm like, tell me why. Would you take a bullet for that person? Yeah. And they'll tell me all the reasons, and they flow, and they're like, oh, I would do this and I would do this, and because they're this and because of that. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to shift this. And I learned this during COVID. I gave a bunch of coaching sessions away during COVID, just as my way of giving back while people were stranded in their house. And I learned something very, 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 very interesting. And I had this whisper in my head that said, Chris, ask him this question. And in my brain, I'm having this conversation. I'm having a one-on-one with somebody. And in my brain, I'm like, that's a ridiculous question. I'm not going to ask this person that. They're going to think I'm an idiot. But the whisper kept coming in my brain, and I've learned to tune into that frequency. And I said, okay, Shairose, I'm going to ask you a question. I don't want you to think too much about it, but do you love yourself? Yes or no?
Yes.
And I found surprisingly, I did probably 100. I didn't count, but I did well over 100 of these sessions. I was very busy. And I found that people would be like, after explaining to me how much they love other people and how much they would do for other people, like a deer in headlights. Like, and I could see the process going on in their brain. Like, okay, I don't want to tell him a 5 or a 6. That's going to be embarrassing. Like, what is he going to think of me? But most of the time, nobody picked. Not too often. I had a few people that were very confident and very assertive that picked an 8 or a 9, but a lot of people picked a 4, 5, and a 6. And I thought, okay, if you think you're delivering a 10 for the person that you love the most, but you're operating in a 4, 5, or a 6, are you really giving that person a 10? And then they would have to stop and pause and think, and that I would see their facial expressions because I'm very good at reading faces, and that I would see them make that realization. But then the conversation would stem to feeling selfish about taking care of themselves. What are your thoughts on that? What are some thoughts that people can empower themselves to not feel selfish or not feel guilty by putting themselves first and refilling their reservoir to be able to handle these, to be able to push themselves in even more high pressure situations, to have that opportunity that at the end of their life, they can look back and be proud of the accomplishments that they made rather than be regretful for the things that they didn't.
Yeah, self-compassion is so important for
Yes.
so many reasons, right? We have one life, and we want to live that the best way possible. And just as you said, if you can't love yourself, how can others find that love for you? If you're not letting it, you're not allowing them to see the best version of yourself until you truly believe in you, until you truly have that self-trust, that self-worth, and exercise that self-care. Because when you invest in yourself, it shows. It matters.
It does.
I'm going to equate this a little bit to business because that's the world I'm in. But good decisions don't begin with the decision, they begin with the state of mind of the decision maker. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
They begin with the state of mind with the decision maker. That means yourself, how you are and what you think of yourself and how you take care of yourself in moments that matter most, when you are really overwhelmed or pressure filled or stressed to the hilt, you need to get back into that state that is your most resource self, is the self that can make a judgment, that has emotional capacity and emotional regulation, that has compassion, that has that decision making so that you are not reactive in that moment, that you are considering not only what is at stake, but you are considering how that is not only going to impact you, but everyone around you. Calmness. And I can share another example if you like that I lived through. But calmness is contagious, and so is panic. So if
Yep.
we know both are contagious, why not pick common?
Mm-hmm. Which wolf? I mean, it goes back to the story. Which wolf are you going to feed? And for people who are
Yeah.
not familiar with the story, you're going to feed the bad wolf. You're going to feed the good wolf. We have that choice. We have that awareness. And I think about it when you were talking. So oftentimes, one of the key strategies I help people with is the words that they use with themselves. Oh, I'm so stupid. Or I'm not good enough. Or I never get things right. I prescribe to people eliminate 3 words from your diet. Always, never, and can't.
Mhm.
Because they're so affirmative. I always screw up. I never get it right. Chris, you're crazy. I can't lose 100 pounds. Like, and I tell them, okay, what would it be like if you could? What would it be like if you shifted that script for yourself and you replace that word with perhaps, or I love the word possibility. Like,
Mhm.
what's the possibility? How can we make this a possibility? How can we make this an opportunity rather than a limitation, a self-imposed limitation? Why am I going to sit there and hold myself back, but yet blame everybody else why I'm fucking miserable? Right? It's no, we have to take that responsibility. And people, I call it the R word. Like I swear, so people like the F word. And I call it the R word, responsibility. Right. And I think about the fact that I shared at the intro, like I was homeless. And at the age of 17, after having a gun put to my head and telling the guy literally, quote, pull the fucking trigger. I dare you to pull the fucking trigger. And fortunately, somebody intervened and I was not shot, which I thought my life was going to be over with at that point. But the result of that situation is that I had to take stock of my life at 17 years old with a mother who I wanted her approval. I wanted her attention. I wanted everything from her, and realized that she just didn't have the capacity for that. And so I was going to continue either to beat my head against a wall, and what was going to be the outcome. So I had to get real with myself, right? The show is all about being real with ourselves. I was going to get out of the situation either in a police car because I was doing bad things with bad people. I was going to get out of that situation in a cardboard or pine box, whatever the hell it is. I was going to wind up dead because I was doing things I didn't even know I was doing. I found out that I didn't even was aware of this. I was running drugs for a drug dealer. I was just giving somebody a ride and they would give me tools. And so I was running them into a gang infested area. I was the only white dude. That was crazy. And then I found out my friend says, you know what you're doing, right? And I said, no, I'm giving this guy a ride to Santa Ana every day. He goes, you're running drugs. And I'm like, you're going to this place called Buena Clinton in Santa Ana. He goes, you're going to get shot. I'm like, oh, yeah. And I was only 16 years old. Thought I had it all figured out. And that third option out of that list, it was either jail, death, or wow, I'm going to have to take responsibility for my life and make a really, really, really god awful decision and leave my mother in this terrible place and go live my life for myself. And I thought, you know what, maybe at this point, all the physical abuse, the mental abuse, the abandonment, all the different stories that I had been through in my life, I had to put myself first. And I had to sort of surrender the situation and realize that I didn't have control or influence on how she was going to be. And so I made the decision to improve my life. I left the situation. I wound up going back and getting my GED at 18 years old. I wound up starting college at 18 years old, and I wound up spending 12 years in school and ultimately graduating with my master's degree the same year I bought my first house. But I had to take that responsibility. I had to put myself in that very uncomfortable situation. And through that, I always try to keep things very simple for people. It was either uncertainty or certainty. Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. So what would you say for people? And then I also want you to share your personal experiences, because I wrote them down and I was like, gee, Christmas, right? What are some ways that we can help people deal with that uncertainty? Like, I just don't know what's going to happen. And it's more predictable. It's safe for me to be here and tolerate this bullshit, because I'm not worthy enough to experience true love or true happiness or true abundance. What are some things that you do with your clients and have done for yourself in your life to get past that feeling of not needing everything to be certain and embracing that free fall of going into the uncertain with the idea that on the other side of it, that I'm going to have this courage and this confidence that I didn't have before?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you first for sharing your personal journey.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was
geez, I'm
so
open kimono, as
powerful
my
and
coach says.
impactful. Thank you. Thank you. Um, Uncertainty is probably one of the biggest forms of pressure because it shows up and it's loud and you feel like you can't do it and your body starts mobilizing in ways and showing you cognitive signals of um, tensing your shoulders or difficulty breathing or just feeling off and you're not sure what's going on, but you know that whatever is happening right now in your body, it's not good. And you feel nervous and uncertain and almost incapable. And that's when you need to understand that it's your nervous system that is coming up with an interpretation of whatever it is that's before you and saying, this is scary, this is a threat, this is something you need to freeze, and you need to change that interpretation. So instead of saying, I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm uncertain, try changing that mindset to believe my body is preparing me for something that matters. And when we change it simply just that way by saying, my body's preparing me for something that matters, that reconnect, that interpretation or interruption of your mindset just grounds you. And it allows you then to present evidence to your mind about how prepared you are, even though you're feeling uncertain, what your experiences have been in similar situation or close where you have thrived and lived through them, and your track record that you're stronger than what you think you are feeling this moment. And all of that evidence starts building a case for you in your mind. So you start feeling the power again. That's
Mhm.
how resilience becomes or turns pressure or transforms pressure into power, because you now know you have it within you. You have that capability, that capacity to lead well within the pressure you're feeling. And that's not positive thinking. And I want people to know it's not just,
Mhm.
wishing it and it will
Right.
happen. That's not what
The
I'm after.
secret.
That's not what I'm saying, right? It's a more useful and accurate interpretation of what's really happening, because pressure can become disabilitating when we interrupt that activation as evidence of us not being able to cope. But it can also become useful when we recognize that that activation is something that's actually preparing us for something that actually matters to us. And that mind shift alone is like, wow. And I'll share the personal story now.
Mhm.
I I was a very A type personality. I say was because I have changed. I am no longer that same A type personality, but I was as I was going through my educational career in the early days, and I had no problems working hard. In fact, it was a kind of high for me to
Right.
work hard, to be ambitious, to do better, to prove all of those. It was a high, and I did it, and I did it for so many years that during those years, as I was also simultaneously trying to have a family, my body was saying no. I ended up with 3 miscarriages in a span of 5 years, where I was building my educational career, doing everything that I thought I wanted to do and be who I wanted to be, but the one thing that I really, really wanted was to be a mother to my 2nd child, and that was not going so well.
Mm.
And so after the 3rd miscarriage, I had a conversation with God. Really, it's with the divine, and I said, "What's going on? I need a sign. I know in me that I am meant to be a mother to another child, and I don't know why this keeps happening. Why am I losing my babies?" And something came over me and just told me I had to let go. I had to let go of that goal that I was in during my career in that educational field, and I had to let go of it and leave and release it, and let whatever life was meant to unfold for me without me trying to direct it and make it happen and wishing it and thinking that I somehow had control over the end result.
Right.
We don't. And so, just like the business that we let go and it was hard, I had to walk away from a career I had built and was doing really well in. But it was a decision that was easier for me to make, because I knew that at the moment that I was living through this, something was not working for me. And I had
Mhm.
to know that in order to figure out what life had in mind for me, in store for me, I had to let go what I was trying to hold on so strong. And
So
once I
important.
let that go, good things started to happen. I left my job in June of 2004, and
Wow.
my youngest son, Bijan, whose name means little hero, was born November 2005.
That's
And
what I'm talking about right there. That's what I'm talking about.
exactly. And you
Oh,
know
that's
what?
beautiful.
I had to not just let go of that career, I had to let go this thing of trying to have a baby on my schedule, on my time, when I wanted it, the
Type
way
A, you
I
probably had in the calendar.
right? Exactly. And
Hey,
once
honey, it's 8 o'clock. Get your ass in here.
once I released that, it was amazing. I met amazing people who helped me make that dream come true of me being a mom. It was a lady that I met at a yoga studio who is a Reiki master, who I later found out after Bijan was born, and I wanted to take Bijan to go have her meet this lady who I felt was like my guardian angel who had come to me at the right time. She's the one who told me that just a simple thing, that my uterus was cold.
I remember you talking about your
Right?
uterus was cold. I was like,
And I just thought,
I've heard a
"What
lot of
does
things in
that
my life, but not
mean?"
that.
And it was all about energy. It was all about going inward, realizing who I was, what I was, how important I was, how resourced I was, what I had to offer, and
Mhm.
then letting that come and getting that energy to go through me in a way that just opened me up, that allowed for things to happen, i.e., for me to become pregnant, and it was, I mean, I don't even know physiologically how to explain all of the Reiki stuff that at that moment was just
Mhm.
beautiful and powerful. But trust me when I say that that what happened to me was nothing short of magic, miracles,
Yeah.
divine intervention, whatever you want to call it. But it was something that I made possible, that all of us can make possible when we realize we are worth it, when we realize that we are important enough to say no to something in order for us to maybe realize something else that means so much to us. And so it was the best decision I made because I got my little boy.
That is such a beautiful story, and thank you for sharing that, Shairose. It's I mean, talk about vulnerability and power and purpose of being able to. I liken it to. I tell people, like, put it in your hands, put all the pressure in your hands, like put it in there, hold everything that you have held in your life that isn't working for you anymore, and hold it as tightly as you could possibly to hold it, and just like really get your fingernails in there and make it, and then and you see it, like,
Yes.
wow, it's released, it's surrendered. And we don't have to be religious or spiritual or anything about it. It's just about, okay, these constraints, these unrealistic expectations, this identity that I've given myself, these excuses. I'm no excuses coach. These excuses that I've given myself for why I'm not pregnant, for why I'm not more abundant, why I don't have the relationship that I want, insert whatever it is. The ability to surrender and to let go and to understand that it's all unfolding for you on purpose.
Mm.
And that's something. I'm not necessarily a type A personality, I guess. I don't know, but a control freak, yeah. To control the outcome based on my experiences as a youth, absolutely. Like, I don't want to experience homelessness again. Financial insecurity was a huge thing for me that my coach had to work with me on. But being able to release that pressure for myself and that expectation for myself, and to be excited about the process unfolding before me, and to go with the flow and to be able to enjoy it rather than fight it, opened up so much more for me. And I'm sure people listening can understand this. The people that you meet when you let that stuff go, the experiences that you start to have, the attraction. I've learned more about this in the last 10 years, thankfully, for mentors and people that I have in my life. The frequency, the vibration of which you're operating with. If you're walking around all, I gotta figure this out and I gotta control this, and I'm worried and I'm scared, and I'm not gonna let you get me to being like, hey, whatever rolls my way, I got it. And you know what? I'm going to enjoy the shit out of this moment right now instead of trying to be manipulating it into my favor. I've seen so many people get pregnant, find the relationship, have the job change, get the clients, whatever it might be, finish the book, It's pretty incredible. So thank you for sharing that, because that is a powerful testimony to what people need to hear tonight, as they're dealing with all these pressures. We've already been going for 55 minutes. I can't even believe how fast time goes by. I'm a big proponent of words. I was telling somebody earlier today, we were talking about swearing, and I said they're just letters strung together. And I minimized that, but also at the same time, the power of questions. Right. And we're coaches, and we've been through a lot of stuff. I'm curious to know from you. I have, what's the word I want to use? I have navigated through some really pressure type situations in my life by asking myself questions. And one of the questions that I like to ask myself is, what am I making this to mean about me? And it allows me to refocus. Or another powerful question that I like to ask myself is, and I ask this a lot, what am I supposed to be learning from this? As opposed to how can I change this? What am I supposed to be learning from this? Because then again, it's that perspective shift. If we just, we know the analogy of an airplane or a boat changes their navigation by 1 degree, you wind up in a completely different spot. I'm curious to know, do you have questions that you like to either ask your clients or ask yourself that can change the conversation that we're having within ourselves?
Yeah, I think one of the frequently questions that I ask my clients to ask themselves when they're in a pressure-filled moment is to understand what state they're in, right? Because sometimes we don't need to
Like California
change.
or Washington?
No, state of mind. Thank you. State
Gotcha.
of mind they're in, right? Because sometimes we don't need to change the pressure. We need to change our relationship with it. Pressure is not the
Yeah.
enemy. And I really want people to get that. Pressure is not the enemy. Pressure is not what caused you your health challenge or your relationship breakup or your performance downfall. The lack of managed pressure did that. The lack of your awareness to see what was happening in your body, your failure to listen to those cognitive signals that your body was telling you when it was time to just put the weight down, to adapt, to recover, to learn, to continue without sacrificing yourself. When all of that was ignored, that's what made it happen. So realizing and asking yourself, what state am I in?
Mhm.
Where am I right now? What is happening to me? And naming that. Taking the pause, naming it, and then choosing the next best step. Not the perfect one, just
Yes.
the next best one. And that alone, those simple acts can really help you when you are under pressureful moments, because now the work is not hard. It's very logical and it's very easy. And the more we practice those moments of pause, name, choose, that's how resilience is built. Every single time we continue to practice that in whatever moments we come in. And sometimes I tell my clients, don't wait for a pressureful moment. Imagine it.
Yeah.
Come up with the scenario in your head and practice it and decide how you're going to pause, what you're going to name it, and how you're going to choose. Because when it really does hit, when pressure does arrive, you're going to be more prepared. You're going to be a much more resilient leader. And you're going to do all this because you've built in the capacity to adapt, to recover, and to continue without sacrificing yourself. You're not going to lose yourself to pressure. And that's how you thrive and not drown.
Yeah, that's how you thrive and not drown. There's a soundbite right there. It's true. I mean, it's again, it goes back to taking that responsibility for ourselves to change our situation and change our direction. And I love that you touched on this. It's not about perfection. It really isn't. So many people say, "Oh, it's got to be this," and then we put a vision in our mind because we don't want to be embarrassed, we don't want to fail, so we don't take that action because of whatever everybody else is going to place their judgment upon us. And so we stay in that limited capacity. And I've seen people, I have a book right behind me. I show it all the time. I'm not going to do it right now, but The 5 Regrets of the Dying. Like if I tell people like, Chris, what's one book that I could read that changed my life? I used to say How to Win Friends and Influence People. But I tell people to read The 5 Regrets of the Dying by Bronnie Ware. Like that is written by a hospice nurse that talks about sitting with people as they're passing away and thinking about their life and regretting all the action that they didn't take because they were worried about it being perfect. But that when you start to take those imperfect actions, I tell people all the time, fail your way to success. And I usually see people's eyes like, huh? Like, no, I'm not supposed to fail. That's bad. No. Fail your way to success. I tell people all the time, I'm sitting in this chair right now. I had a beautiful corporate career. I was very successful. I'm sitting in this chair right now because I took imperfect action. I say, figure the fuck out. I figured it the fuck out. I just like, okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, I want that job. Okay, what do I got to do? Okay, I got to start acting like a supervisor. Okay, what would a supervisor wear? What would a supervisor say? How many books can I read about supervising? Can I watch autobiographies or documentaries about people? What can I do? And start taking that and acting as if and putting those things into motion, because when we start to get into motion, we start to realize it's not as bad as we thought. It's not as hard as we thought. I wish I would have done it sooner. I can't tell you how many times I have heard, we were talking earlier today with a friend of mine, and we were talking about common phrases. I can't tell many people how many times I've heard, I wish I would have done it sooner, Chris. Especially like, I had somebody recently, a former coaching client that worked with me for about 2 years. She wanted two things. She wanted to lose weight and keep it off, and she wanted to become the principal of her school. And at that point, she was a kindergarten teacher, I believe. She just, this is 2020 to 2022. She just texted me, and I think it's a couple of months now. By now, it seems like just yesterday. She texted me out of the blue. I was sitting on my couch watching a movie. She says, Chris, I just became the principal of my school. And it took from 2022, let's say 4 years. I got to get a calculator out to do that. 4 years later, and she's kept the weight off. And she became the principal of her school. She went from kindergarten teacher to principal of her school. I see her post now. She's, I just met with my staff. And I'm like, yes. In all, she spent a lifetime of keeping herself small and telling herself that she can't do it. And then she took that imperfect action. And she literally had said to me so many times, like, I wish I would have done it sooner, Chris. But hindsight's always 2020. And I could sit there. I literally wrote 3 more things down. I could talk to you probably for another couple of hours, but I want to respect your time, respect the time of the viewers and the listeners. So I want to do this little action that I like to do every once in a while. I'm going to put you in a solo screen. So you're going to be by yourself, but I want you, since we are in 100+ countries, and because I emphatically tell people that we're more the same than we are different, no matter where we come from, no matter what labels we get identified by society, black, white, straight, gay, Republican, Democrat, Muslim, Christian, whatever it is, right? We have all sorts of people listening and watching to the show right now. And of course, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world today. I have to practice a lot of what I preach and what I teach if I take a look at what's going on in the world today. So I'm going to put you on a solo screen, but I want you to take the microphone and speak to the world. If you had a microphone and you were able to speak for a minute or two to the world, what is it that you would say? How would you summarize this conversation, and what things would you tell them to do or suggest that they do? And then be sure to tell people where they can get a hold of you, where they can learn more about you. So I'm going to give you this opportunity to speak to the entire world.
Thank you so much, Chris, for giving me this opportunity. It has been wonderful to be here and share this conversation with you and your listeners. I would say to everyone who's listening that all of you have it in you to manage and be capable within pressure. Don't let pressure break you. Let it reveal the inner strength that I know all of you have, that resilient you that can get through pressure and not let it define you. I would like you to also know, and something Chris said at the end that really triggered for me, action creates confidence. A lot of people believe that you need confidence before you can take action, and that's just not the case. Once you take that action, no matter how imperfect it is, your confidence will follow. If you would like to learn more about me, I encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn. Please comment. I always reply to all the comments myself, and I love that dialogue and interaction that I have with my LinkedIn individuals. And also, please visit me at on my website at www.pressurepoint.coach. That's pressurpoint.coach. www.pressurepoint.coach. This is Shairose Gulamani, and I'm so happy to be here and so grateful for this time together.
Well spoken, my dear. True rock star. I'm so glad that we got to become a part of each other's orbits through the Women of Inspiration, through Monica and through Yvonne. I can't thank you enough for being able to share that with people. I know that when I create the sound bites for the show, that's going to be captured in there because it's so vitally important, as the human race, in what you and I and everybody else that's listening to this can do for our kids, relatively speaking, our kids of the world and their kids, that we have this opportunity to change the trajectory of what we prioritize in our lives, to give a deeper meaning to the fact that we are victors of our experience rather than victims. And I think that's so important. So again, people listening, please go to pressurepoint.coach. I'll make sure that it is in the show notes for everybody to do that. Shairose, thank you so much for being here. This has been an awesome conversation. It's not too often where I sit there and think, I've had asked people like, why don't you do long form content? Why don't you do 2 or 3 hours? And I'm like, because I can't sit still that long. And I also want to respect people's time. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of this. And I look forward to more conversations with you. I'm going to place you backstage for a second. I'm going to finish out the show, but don't go anywhere so I can still have a chat with you.
Thank you very much, Chris.
You are welcome, my dear. And there you have it, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. So now what are you going to do? Oh man, that was so inspiring. God, she was on fire. I really dug what she said. And man, I should do that. And yeah, maybe someday. That's another of the words that need to be eliminated from your vocabulary. Someday. I used to have a calendar in front of me and I would pick it up and I would show you guys, where is someday? Where is someday? There is no someday. There's today. There's right now. So right now you can take the notes that you wrote down and you can sit there and say, you know what? Like I said before, I think I said it before. I've said a lot of things today. Put it on a sticky note. Eliminate, always, never, and try. That was another one. Try. I'm going to try to lose weight. I'm going to try to get up early. I'm going to try. That's another one of my big sawhorses. Seahorses? High horses. That's what it is. Not seahorses. That I tell people, oh, I'm going to try. I'll give it a try. No. How about making a commitment? I say the C word, not the other C word. C word. Commitment. Look at that. That's kind of cool. Don't get distracted, Chris. It's pretty cool. Commitment. I'm trying to make you guys laugh because when I make you laugh, it makes you remember things. Commitment. How about making a commitment to say, you know what? In the words of Mel Robbins, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to get up and put my shoes on. I'm going to go to the gym. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm going to make the phone call. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to throw that thing away that I've been staring at that I'm never going to use. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Take action. Take imperfect action. But make a commitment. Make a promise to yourself. Make a promise to yourself that you're going to take action and you're going to move yourself forward in your life. It's not your mom's life. It's not your husband's life. It's not your best friend Sally's life. It's not Chris's life. It is your life. I can't make you do anything. You made me mad. I didn't fucking make you mad. You pressed my buttons. I was having fun with this recently with somebody. Like, they pressed my buttons. And I said, what would it be like if you didn't have fucking buttons? Your buttons are right here. They say, push me. And you're like, oh, they made me mad. They made me feel insecure. Nobody made you do anything. You did it. This is where the no excuses, unapologetic kind of version of the show comes out. You did it. You. Not me, nobody else. How about not having buttons? How about deciding to look through life through the lens of love? Love for yourself, love for life, joy, gratitude, excitement, curiosity, adventure, right? You can live in this space. You can. Yes, you. No matter what the fuck you've been through, you can live in that space. You may have to say bye to your friends. You may have to say bye to your family. You may have to make some really tough decisions that are going to suck. I'm not going to lie. Chris, it's going to be hard. Yeah, it's going to be fucking hard. I'm not going to tell you. You're waiting for me to tell you it's going to be easy. It's not going to be hard. How do you build a muscle? You work it. You work it. You tear it down. You tear it down, and then you rest. And then it gets stronger and it gets bigger. And you get confident. And you get joy. And you get perspective. Or you can live through the lens of fear. But what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if I piss somebody off? What if my situation becomes worse? So what? You're going to grow through it. You're going to get through it. Why? Because you, friends, are unstoppable. By the way, I sell these beautiful bracelets. I'm wearing them. One says believe. The other one says no excuses on that. That one says no excuses because that is powerful and unstoppable. And as you can see, I'm wearing them. I'm wearing a bunch of wristbands. And by the way, I didn't always wear all these bracelets. It just became a thing. People give them to me. So, lens of love, lens of fear. Your choice. Not mine, not Shairose's, not, hey, Arif. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I had a friend named Arif. It was Aref. Says, great chat. Thank you. You are welcome. You are so welcome. Thank you for being here and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting what I assume is probably your wife. That's an assumption. And by the way, don't make assumptions, ladies and gentlemen, because assumptions make an ass out of you and me. Robert, Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here. Everybody who's watching who didn't comment, because I know people are here lurking. Jacqueline says here, I've been dealing with stress for years, anxiety, depression, and overthinking. Yeah. How's that been working out for you? It's one of my favorite questions. How's that working out for you? How's that working out for you? Right? I know Jacqueline's a warrior. She's my Irish sister from another mister. But yeah, when does that stop? I was just coaching somebody yesterday. I said, when does that stop? When are you gonna quit doing that to yourself? When are you gonna quit doing that to yourself? And I know Jacqueline is becoming more and more powerful every single day. So it's really about what's your new normal. What is going to be your new normal from this situation? How are you going to decide to wake up tomorrow? What are you going to say to yourself tonight before you go to sleep? I'll leave you with this. There's patterns and there's processes and there's habits, things that you can do that you could start to put into motion, right? We talked about that. Motion. I go to the gym. I feel a little bit better. I drink a little bit more water. I drink a little less soda. I eat a little bit better. I feel a little bit better. I think a little bit better. I make a little bit better decisions. I go to the gym. I get stronger. I get more oxygen in my body. I get better sleep. I make better decisions. I feel better. I do better. I give better. I appreciate better. Right? So you start putting those things into play. So when you go to sleep tonight, think about this. What are my intentions when I wake up tomorrow? Are my intentions to wake up and look at my phone and go, fuck, the world's on fire and people are shitting the bed? Or is it my intention to wake up tomorrow and go, you know what? There's a lot of stuff going on and there's a lot of stuff outside of my control. Shairose talked about that. What's within our control? We think we can control everything. Not a whole fucking lot we can control. I am learning that. I am. That's one of the things that I choose to grow through at this particular point in my life, where I'm just surrendering. Like, okay, what can I do? I could be an awesome dad. I could be an awesome husband. I could be an awesome friend. I could be an awesome coach. I could be an awesome podcaster. I can try to make the world a better place. Oh, he just said, try. I will. I do make the world a better place. See, that's what it's about. It's about catching yourself. It's about catching yourself and saying, no. I'm not trying. I'm doing it. I'm fucking committing to it. I'm making a promise to myself. So you wake up tomorrow and you have the intention to live in a space of gratitude. I was just helping somebody with gratitude the other day. And I said, the next time you eat a cookie, I want you to really focus on that cookie. And if you don't eat cookies, whatever it is that you're going to eat, really focus on that. Like it might be your last meal, or you might be your first time. I also use the term lasagna, or not the term lasagna, but like really enjoy, really choose and embrace joy in your life, because it's a pretty fucking cool experience to wake up and to be able to breathe and to be able to focus and see things with your own eyes and be able to tell your loved ones while they're still alive that you care about them and that you do anything for them. And then sit there and set about your day, not to think about doing something and not to want to do something, but to sit there and say, you know what, how can I challenge myself to push through the fear, to push through the uncertainty? How can I sit there and decide that all this pressure that I'm holding up as a badge of honor, that I'm just going to, you know what, I'm going to set that down right here. I'm going to set that down right here. And you know what? I only get so many breaths. My heart's only going to beat so many times. What am I going to do with that? And I encourage you, here's what you do. You love yourself. You take care of yourself. You take care of people that you don't know. You do something nice for somebody, a complete stranger, every single day. And you start to perpetuate the fact that you're a giver and you're a lover of life. And we perpetuate that throughout the world so that my son, who's 9 years old in the other room, so he gets to grow up and inherit a world that's beautiful. Okay? Let's do that for each other. Let's love one another. Let's understand one another. Let's really listen with the attention of understanding as opposed to just preparing what we're going to say next. And let's tune back in to this episode or to this podcast next week. So you got 7 days to use 3 strategies from what it is that we talked about. And you show up again next week, hopefully live on the broadcast, and you ask some questions, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again. Then you wind up being unstoppable. You wind up leaving a legacy that you're proud of. You wind up inspiring some other people, right? Can you feel my joy? Can you feel my giddy up? All right. So ladies and gentlemen of the Raw and Unscripted Kick-Ass Nation, Jacqueline says, great talking. I love it. I love you and I appreciate you. Jacqueline says here, I try to do what's best for me every day. No, you do it. You do it, sister. You do it. All right. I love you guys. We'll see you next time on the Raw and Unscripted show. Go out there, be beautiful. Go to rawandunscripted.com to make sure you get the podcast wherever podcasts are sold. You go to itsjustyoumandmekid.com to help me make the book bestseller. And if you're interested in working with me, you guys can reach out to me and I'll do this. I don't often do this, but if you've been listening for this long, right up until the end of the podcast, if you reach out to me, if you're one of the 5 people that reaches out to me the first, I will gift you a coaching session. No pressure. Coaching session with me. I promise you walk away feeling a hell of a lot better about any situation that you bring to the table. I promise you that. I deliver on my promises, and I will see you here next time on the show. Peace out.